What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to the main event deep dive for UFC Vegas 53. We have Rob Font going against Marlon Vera. Say what you want about the card as a whole, but this main event is going to be very fun and very exciting. I like both guys, big fan of both guys, and I think it's going to be an absolute war. Weezy, what is up? How you doing on this Monday? And you looking forward to the main event?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, man. Marlon Vera is very rarely in boring fights, and same thing can be said for Font. So, we got guys that have got 31 UFC fights combined between them. This is the first time that we're getting to see Marlon Vera in a main event fight the full 5 rounds potentially. That's a very exciting angle of this fight, but it's two warriors in one of the toughest weight classes in the entire UFC going at it in a 5-round main event. It's going to be all action. It's a great fight. Can't wait to chop it up with you.
Should be fun for sure. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We got Philip, first one in the chat, saying sub. We got Brandon in the chat as well. Lou Betcha hanging out. Daz Files, Cole, and Roy. Thank you all so much for hanging out. If you guys can please leave a like on the video and also subscribe if you're not subscribed to the MMA Engine already. We're growing the channel, and that is thanks to you guys. Thanks a ton there. And then me and Weezy will be back on Thursday for probability, where we're going to talk about a data-driven look into all the props for this card. So that should be fun. So make sure you are subscribed to not miss out on that. But I say we dig right into it here, starting as always with the tail of the tape. We have Rob Font, Marlon Vera here. Rob Font, he is 34 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach. Marlon Vera, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach. Marlon Vera is going to be 5 years younger than Rob Font here, and then Rob Font's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage as well. Rob Font is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. His last time out had a decision loss that did go all 5 rounds against Jose Aldo. Prior to that, he did win a decision over 5 rounds against Cody Garbrandt. He knocked out Marlon Vera. He won a decision against Ricky Simone and won a decision against Sergio Pettis as well. Marlon Vera, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Last time out, knocked out Frankie Edgar in the 3rd round. Won a very fun and exciting decision over Davey Grant. Lost a decision to Jose Aldo. Knocked out Sean O'Malley in the very 1st round, and then lost a close decision to Song Yadong. So, Weezy, is there anything that sticks out to you right away in terms of the tail of the tape? For me, Marlon Vera is 29 years old. He seems a lot younger than you'd imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, for a guy who's got 26 fights and 18 UFC fights, it's surprising to see that he's 5 years younger than Font here, because he's got 2 more fights than Font. He's got 5 more UFC level fights than Font, and he's actually been doing this longer, 6 months longer than Rob Font. And, what we know about Marlon Vera is that he was one of these guys who was on the 1st season of the Ultimate Fighter South America. Here's a kid who was coming out of Ecuador, a place that's really, was not known at all for combat sports. So he, at a very young age, it would have been right around 19 years of age, is when he made his pro debut, and then he was in that UFC house probably a year or 2 after that. So he got to grow up. He got to be thrown right into that fire and really kind of get that opportunity to bring South America into the fold of the UFC, get some of their brightest young prospects down there. Puelles was on that show. There are some guys that have come out of that Ultimate Fighter South America, because they did 3 seasons of it, who have had some success in the UFC, even Ponzinibbio. So this was really good that Vera got to get in there and really kind of sharpen his skills when he was very young, because it's turning him into the product that we see before our eyes today at 29 years of age, with 26 fights, with 18 UFC level fights. So it's kind of surprising to see Vera 5 years younger, but with 2 more pro fights, 14 more minutes in the pro cage, 5 more UFC level fights, and about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. So we like that for Vera. That's a nice little advantage to have right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. We got Postman in the chat. What is up, Postman? We got Silky B hanging out as well. XB Lon, thank you for tuning in. And yeah, it's really cool to see Marlon Vera make his debut, such a young age, and then just as over time, just making so many improvements. And now at 29 years old, we are seeing Marlon Vera in his prime. Like, this guy is very, very good, but he has a tough matchup against Rob Font. So, Weezy, let's talk about the finish stats a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, both of these guys are pretty good finishers. We see Font is finishing overall at a 63% rate, and doing a little bit better than that at the UFC level. He's finished 6 of his 9 UFC wins for 67% on 9. So, and then we've got Vera with an 83% finish rate in his 18 wins. So that's 15 of his 18 wins coming inside the distance. 8 by submission, 7 by knockout. So, I mean, the guy's an equal opportunity finisher. And then we look at the UFC level, it's an 83% finish rate, the exact same percentage in the UFC as outside of it. So this guy is, not somebody who front loaded his finish stats on the regional scene and then came into the UFC and started taking minutes off. Not at all, man. Fucking Vera is absolutely a finisher, finishing 10 of his 12 UFC wins inside the distance. 6 of them by knockout, 4 of them by submission. So, yeah, both of these guys are savage finishers. When we think of Marlon Vera, we should think of one word, and that's durability. 7 total losses, 6 in the UFC. This man has never been finished. As a matter of fact, he's never even been knocked down.
Yeah.
In 18 fights, you look at the names on this guy's resume: Song Yadong, Sean O'Malley, Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo. And you go in the past, and it's guys like Douglas Da Silva and some of these knockout artists. This guy's never even been knocked down. So absolute durability for Marlon Vera. And then we see Rob Font has been finished in 1 of his 4 UFC losses, and that's his only finish loss. He's got 5 total losses. So in these guys, 12 combined losses, only 1 of them coming inside the distance. So we got to be looking at the overs in this particular fight because both of these guys have been so durable. But then on the other side, we can't be too confident about it because both of these guys are finishing at a really good rate here. If we just do the UFC wins, 21 between them, and it would be 6 plus 10, so 16 of them. So it's just over 75% of these guys' UFC wins coming inside the distance. So it's a 5-round fight. It makes it really difficult to figure out which side of the time props you want to be on. But both of these guys are great finishers at the UFC level and on the regional scene, and they're both very durable.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of last fight with Lando Venata, Charles Jourdain. The over and the fight goes was a very popular play, kind of like this fight. Both of those guys were absolute killers. Both those guys were finishers. But on the flip side, both of those guys were extremely, extremely durable and ended up getting finished in the first round, right? But yeah, I get why a lot of people are on the over this week, over 4.5. A lot of people are on the fight goes decision. And I get why. Both guys have a ton of durability. But on the flip side, both of these guys are very, very dangerous. And like you mentioned, Marlon Vera, this guy's durability is off the charts. I don't see Rob Font submitting him. So if there is a finish, I kind of lean towards it being Vera. Vera's eaten 859 strikes and has not went down once. Like that's crazy. This guy's durability is next level. But let's talk about these striking stats a little bit, Weezy. For me, in my opinion, at least, I feel like Rob Font is going to be the minute winner on the feet. I feel like his striking is very, very good. And what I like about Rob Font is a couple things on the feet. His striking is very good. His hands are really fast, but his volume in particular, like this guy throws a ton of volume. He lands a ton of volume, and he's shown that he can do that over 5 rounds. Against Cody Garbrandt, he showed he went out there and can do it. And then against Jose Aldo, he did land a ton of volume in that fight as well. So I think in terms of the striking, Font's going to have success. It's just Marlon Vera, he's going to be a little bit lower volume, but he's also going to be probably landing the harder shots, the more eye-popping shots. I think the striking is going to be very close, but I think the minute winner will be Rob Font here.
Yeah, and we can see that in the numbers, Brady. We see Font is throwing way more volume than his opponents. He's landing over 2 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents. That's a fantastic ratio over 13 UFC fights and 150 minutes of UFC cage time. This guy Font is landing 5.64 significant strikes per minute. That's almost 6, dude. That's a lot. And he's absorbing only 3.55, showing a 60% striking defense. He's only been knocked down twice in 13 UFC fights, and he's landed 6 knockdowns of his own in 13 fights. So, almost, about a half knockdown per UFC fight, Rob Font is landing. Now, Vera, not as good of a minute winner on the feet, and we could see why. His opponents are throwing more volume than him, 8.66 significant strike attempts per minute from Vera's opponents, while Vera offers 7.98. and Vera lands 4.08 significant strikes a minute and absorbs 4.27. So he's got a negative 0.19 significant strike differential. His significant striking defense is sitting right below 51%. So he's a lot less defensively responsible than Rob Font, and he throws a lot less volume. We can see here that Vera's fights are taking place at striking range about 60% of the time, while for Font, it's about 72% of the time. But even though Font is in striking range more often, he's throwing 12.67 significant strike attempts per minute to Marlon Vera's 8. So yeah, volume advantage for Font, a little bit of a power advantage in terms of the knockdowns per 15 minutes for Font. Very good defensively for Font in terms of the strikes landed to the strikes absorbed and the strikes thrown to the opponent's strikes thrown. So I think it looks like Font's going to be the better minute winner on the feet, but we do know that Marlon Vera, he only kind of needs one. Yeah. And we saw it in the Font fight, right? Both of these guys have fought Jose Aldo recently, and the Font fight against Aldo was 5 rounds. The Vera fight was 3 rounds, and we saw Aldo win minutes in both fights, with his grappling. But in the striking exchanges, you kind of saw, Vera do better really on the feet against Aldo than Font did, in my opinion, because Font was landing those jabs. And what you mentioned, that jab of his, he uses it. He keeps you at the end of it. He's very long when he strikes, especially for a 135-pounder. He looks long. So it's interesting because I think Vera, even though the statistics indicate that Font will probably be the minute winner on the feet, I could see Vera landing the bigger strikes and Font, kind of being put in trouble by some of the lands, of Vera, because Vera is just so durable that I think he's going to be able to eat a lot of these jabs and counter. And when he does, I think he's going to be landing the bigger shots here. So I think this is very close on the feet. But if Font can keep on his bike, can maintain distance with the jab, I think that if he's successful doing that, he will win large swaths of minutes here on the feet. But he's got to be very careful to see what's coming back his way from Vera, because Vera throws with a ton of power.
Yeah, Rob Font would love to just stick on the outside for 25 minutes, use that jab, but I don't think Marlon Vera is going to let that happen. Vera is going to walk through fire, and he's going to try to close distance and land some big shots. But yeah, Rob Font, probably the minute winner, but we talk about, winning moments, and Marlon Vera is most definitely a moment winner. So, I think on the feet, it's going to be very, very close and competitive. And you talked about the Jose Aldo fight, where Rob Font is actually outlanding Aldo by quite a bit. He outlanded him 149 to 86. Like, that's a big discrepancy there, but it was actually Jose Aldo who had the bigger moments on the feet. He knocked him down twice in that fight. And like you mentioned, Aldo did mix in the wrestling, which brings us to our next point here, is going to be the grappling stats here. So I think Marlon Vera, he doesn't go for takedowns as much as I really like to see. Only 11 takedowns completed in 18 fights. But if you're Marlon Vera here, why not try to exploit that 55% takedown defense of Rob Font? Marlon Vera's ground game is very good. It's improved like leaps and bounds from when he first entered the UFC to now. So I think Marlon Vera, if he can get this down to the mat, he really can have some success. It's just, will he use that game plan? I would highly recommend it, but it's up to him. Weezy, do you think Marlon Vera will go for takedowns here?
Not really. No, like the thing about Vera is, he reminds me a lot of Jose Aldo. Now, Aldo's good everywhere, just like Vera's good everywhere. Vera's got really good Muay Thai, so he's good in the clinch exchanges, and he's big and he's long and he's tall, so he can use his elbows, he can use his knees there, and he's strong enough to keep his opponents up against the cage. He also is really good in the distance striking with his boxing. His jab is also very long when he chooses to use it. He throws a lot of kicks, front kicks to the legs, low leg kicks to maintain distance. And I think that that's going to be very important for Vera. The low leg kicks against a guy like Font, who is very heavy on that lead leg when he throws that jab. I think that that's going to be very, very important for Marlon Vera here. And we've seen him not do it as much recently, but with this particular opponent and in this particular fight, I think we're going to see Vera go to those low leg kicks in order to maintain the distance against Font here. That's going to be very important. But Vera kind of just flows with the fight. You know, a lot of times when he gets a takedown, it's because somebody overextends on a strike attempt against him, and then he can just take their back standing, kind of like what Jose Aldo did to him in round number 3 of their fight. So, you know, like you mentioned it, 18 UFC fights and only 26 takedown attempts for Marlon Vera. That's 1.5 takedown attempts per fight. And you can even look at the advanced stats for this guy and see that he doesn't really vary the amount of takedowns or takedown attempts that he uses in his fights all that much. It's not like you're seeing, you know, one fight where he shoots for 10 takedowns and then 4 fights where he shoots for none because he thinks he has the striking advantage. Vera just kind of flows with the fight. He'll shoot for a takedown if he feels that time is right, but I don't really think he plans for it in advance. And Font is kind of the same way. Sometimes he'll surprise you. You know, he came out in round 1 against Aldo and shot a takedown 2 minutes into the fight. And people, you know, even like DC was like, what is Rob Font doing trying to wrestle this guy? But he's just trying to show you a different look. He's trying to surprise you. He's trying to make you uncomfortable. So Font, about 1.6, 1.7 takedown attempts per fight in the UFC over a 13 fight sample size. And for Vera, it's about the same, about 1.5 takedown attempts per fight over an 18 fight sample size. So I do believe that this fight is going to take place largely on the feet. And we can see that Vera controls his opponents 14% of the time over a large sample size. For Font, it's a little bit below 10.5%. So these guys, if they're only attempting 1.5 takedowns, you know, per fight, and they're only controlling their opponents less than 1/8 of the time for the most part, you know, we can kind of expect that this fight's going to probably take place primarily on the feet, and that when we do see these guys shooting for takedowns, it'll probably be to try to win some minutes at the end of a round. But I don't think we're going to see it be a big part of either of these guys' game plan. And the reason for that is that they're both kind of losing minutes on the ground. Look at Vera, 14% control time for, 26% control time against. Font, 10.5% control time for, 17.5% control time against. So both of these guys are getting out controlled by their opponents. For Vera, it's about 13% gap, and for Font, it's about a 7% gap. So, you know, I think that offensively, we're going to see these guys look more to the striking to try to win minutes.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be standing for the most part. Yeah, I noticed that as well. Like, why would Rob Font try to take down Jose Aldo, who has, you know, some of the best takedown defense you'll ever see in the UFC? So I thought that was weird, but yeah, this is going to be a really good fight here. By the way, I do want to mention that we are in the small cage. I want to ask you about this because to me, I feel like the small cage really favors a guy like Marlon Vera, whereas the bigger cage would favor a guy like Rob Font. If you're Rob Font, like I said, you want to stick to the outside, you want to use your footwork, whereas Marlon Vera wants to close the distance, make this a gritty war. Did you put any thoughts into the smaller or bigger cage here?
No, I mean, I think that that's a very good point because, you know, Vera, like somebody just said, Brandon just said in the, or maybe it was Eric said in the chat that, you know, he likes to fight in a phone booth, and he does. You know, I mean, like I said, he's really good in the clinch. He's great with his knees and his elbows too. While Font is really good at maintaining distance with his jab and picking you apart with that jab. So in order to do that, you need more room. You need to be able to move laterally in and out. And when Vera is unafraid to pressure his opponents, man, if he's kicking that low leg, and if he's pressuring Font, it's going to be very hard in a small cage for Font to be able to maintain that distance and fight long with Vera marching him down and with less room for him to move. So absolutely, it makes a difference in this particular case.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing as well. And on top of that, I do want to talk about the 5-round aspect of this fight. So, you know, typically we like to talk about who's going to have the cardio advantage. I don't think cardio is going to be a factor here, right? We have seen Rob Font go into the 5th round a couple times, and then Marlon Vera, we've only seen him go into the 3rd round, and this is going to be his 29th fight. So 29 fights, and he's finally getting his first 5-round fight. And I'm very excited to see that because we know how Marlon Vera fights. He's going to lose the 1st round. And by the way, from a live betting standpoint, you got to take a look at Marlon Vera after round 2, especially if he's a big dog, because he's going to lose round 1. We all know that. But Marlon Vera Round 2, he starts to wake up. Round 3, Marlon Vera is a complete animal. And I've been saying all week, I can't wait to see what round 4 Marlon Vera looks like. And then round 5 Marlon Vera looks like. It's kind of terrifying to think about, Weezy, considering how terrifying Marlon Vera is in that 3rd round.
Dude, he's a zombie.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is a zombie, I mean, he's the Ecuadorian zombie. He's undead, he's never been knocked down. He's never been finished. This guy is still not even 30 years old, and he's got, 26 career fights and 18 of them at the UFC level, and he's fought a who's who, so he's an absolute zombie. And like, have you ever seen Marlon Vera tired? I can't think of a time. And I mean, it's the same thing for Font. Font's conditioning is fantastic. That's why this is such a great fight here, because, I think that even if we do see these guys grapple, we've seen Font have to grapple in the past and then come back late in fights and still pick people apart with his jab and be moving his feet and be pushing the same kind of high pace. So, I mean, I don't think conditioning is going to be a factor in this fight, because both of these guys are fantastic with their conditioning. I think that durability is going to be the thing that really tells the story in this fight.
Yeah, and the thing is, Rob Font has typically showed very good durability, right? Like, he had never been knocked down prior to the Jose Aldo fight in his last fight, right? So that was the first time he was knocked down, and he was knocked down twice in that fight. So up until that point, I really never questioned Rob Font's durability. I thought he was very durable, but Jose Aldo did put him down twice in that fight, which is, it's a little concerning.
It is, but it was one of those things. He landed a straight right with like 10 seconds left in the first round, and that was unfortunate for Rob Font, because Rob had won that round. He won the first 4 minutes and 45 seconds of that round, was using his jab. And and Aldo's a slow starter sometimes.
Yeah.
So we saw what I think is kind of like a similar matchup. And I think that this fight is going to play out very similarly to how Aldo Font played out, because I think Marlon Vera is the better grappler here, even though Font, we can't say that he's grappling deficient at the UFC level. That would just be ignorant to say that. He's done very well for a guy who's known for his boxing and who's been shot 40 takedowns against and had 18 takedowns completed, only showing 55% takedown defense. But if you look at the control time, he's really only been controlled about 23, 24 minutes on those 18 takedowns. So he's got a very good get-up game. He can challenge with submissions off his own back. And as a matter of fact, he's got 4 career wins by submission in his own right. So I think Vera's the plus grappler here. I think Font is the plus striker here in terms of winning minutes and being just a little bit better there. But like I say, it's a great matchup. And these guys are very similar, but Vera is going to just flow with the fight, while I think Font is going to have to follow a game plan and really have to stay on his bike and try to keep it standing.
Yeah, and it's hard to really follow a game plan when somebody's coming at you like a complete maniac for 5 rounds, right? But yeah, everything's seemed like pretty close thus far. Let's take a look at the strength of schedule. Obviously, both guys have fought very, very good fighters.
They have. The strength of schedule leans Font in the overall, in the wins and in the losses here. So we can see Font's ratio overall 1.65. For Vera, it's 1.48. The total fights for Font 11.23 to Vera's 8.94. So better win-loss ratio competition and more experience competition on the aggregate for Rob Font. The wins a little bit better as well. We got a 1.56 ratio in Font's wins, a 1.36 ratio in Vera's wins. And we got 9.11 total fights in Font's wins, 8.25 for Vera. Slight lean to the wins for Font. Slight lean to the losses for Font, 1.78 ratio to 1.7, and 16 total fights to 10.33. So Rob Font has got the boxing advantage, the distance striking advantage. He's got the strength of schedule advantage. But Marlon Vera and Rob Font also has a 1-inch reach advantage, and that could come into play here. But it's Marlon Vera who's younger. He's more experienced as a pro and at the UFC level. He's the more dynamic, equal opportunity finisher. he's the better moment winner, I would say, even though Font's got more than his share of UFC knockdowns as well. So Font can absolutely win moments as well. But Marlon Vera is just, I mean, to be finishing 10 out of your 12 UFC wins, and one of those two that went to the decision, he nearly murdered David Grant in that fight. So I mean, like, you know, this guy almost has finished, you know, 12 out of 12 wins, and the one that he didn't was like in China, you know, 10 time zones away from where he's from. So he was probably not himself that particular day. So yeah, I think Vera's the better moment winner. I think he's going to have the grappling edge here. But, you know, this is a great close fight. But the reason I'm going to pick Marlon Vera here, Brady, is that durability. It's a 5-round fight, and that durability, man, I just don't see I could see him breaking if he lands 3 rounds of great strikes and Vera's just still there, still in his face. I mean, that is enough to break any high-level fighter, is just that when your opponent won't go away when you're landing your best strikes.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to take a look at the odds. And everybody in the chat, let me know, what are you taking a look at for this fight? You like an Vera money line, Font money line, and for some reason, Weezy, I don't know what it is, but Bet Online has started to get props out. They have props out for Arlovsky Collier, Elkins Connolly, Dawson Gordon, Fili Brito, but they don't have props out yet for the main event. You'd think they would get the main event props out, right? But no, not yet. So waiting for those. But we have the money line up here. We have Rob Font opening up -175, and this line's been up and down all week. He got as low as like -1 at 20, -110, and he's currently -144. And then Marlon Vera opened at +150. He got as low as +100, and now he's back up to +124. And I don't know, I feel like this should be lined a little bit closer. I feel like this is a very, very close and competitive fight here. Any thoughts on the money line?
Yeah, I like the plus money on Vera here, but it wouldn't surprise me if Font won this fight at all. I mean, obviously, he's a slight favorite here. I think he's the better minute winner on the feet. And there's reasons to like both fighters, you know? I mean, we just went over it. If you're on the Font side, you're saying, you know what? I think he's the better minute winner on the feet. I don't think Vera wrestles enough to win enough minutes on the ground for me to be worried that you know, Vera's going to land a big shot, be the first guy to ever knock out Rob Font in his entire career. We got to mention that too, is that Rob Font's never been knocked out either. That's in 13 UFC fights and 24 professional fights. So, yeah, I like the Vera plus money here, but if this were -110, you know, a piece, I'd probably say I like Font.
Yeah, I get why he's the favorite. Like, he's going to be the minute winner. I do think he's the better striker, but I don't know. Vera's a dog, and it's 5 rounds. So I do like the Vera side of plus money as well. I'm curious to see where that line goes. Actually, I thought it was going to close a little bit more, but looks like more money's coming in on Font. So I might just sit back and wait and see where that goes. But would love to talk about these other props, but they're not out yet. Looks like they have an over under set at 4.5 rounds. The over 4.5 -160, under 4.5 rounds +130. The over 4.5 open at -150. So it looks like some money's coming in on the over, and we talked about it. It does make sense, but with guys that are this dangerous, it is kind of terrifying, especially in a 5-round fight, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Font's got 6 knockdowns in 13 UFC fights. So he's, you know, I mean, he could be the first person to knock down Vera because, you know, he's got that kind of power. He's got that kind of precision and timing and length on the jab that, you know, and the jab is the key to the door that opens up all the other power strikes. So, you know, who's to say that he won't be the first one to knock down Vera or finish him? I'm not going to bet that. You're goddamn right. I'm not going to bet that. But, you know, it's a 5-round fight. Like you said, man, anything can happen. And both of these guys are super high level.
Yeah, let's see what the chat is saying, see which way they're leaning. We have Papa Chuck saying Vera with a 4th-round sub. NHJ saying Vera 4-5 decision could be interesting. I do like that. Would love to see the odds on that. Cole saying, loving the idea of a Cheeto live line after round or two. After a round or two, I see him responding well to the adversity. Yeah, I think you can get an even better line because I don't really see him winning the first round. I would be curious, Weezy, to know how many first rounds have Marlon Vera won. I know he won the Sean O'Malley first round, but you know off the top of your head how many first rounds he's won?
He sure did win that one, and I think he won the first round against Guanju Ning, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, where the hell has Guanju Ning been? Can you answer that for me? Jesus, he hasn't been around in a minute, but we'll figure that out another time, man. And and we could also, if you want, talk about the people's main event props that are out on Bet Online. How about Fat Collier versus Arlovsky, huh, baby? Let's go.
I want to bet the fight goes to decision at -175, but it's just I don't know. It's so sloppy and greasy and sweaty and
oh god, and just like sweaty, just fat sweaty,
oh my gosh,
like a fat man in a house with no air conditioning in Arizona, just dripping, just sweating butter.
Yeah, I don't know if I can bet that.
It's a fun one, but dude, the props on this fight, the Vera finish only. We already mentioned the 4-5 decision here. We could get a Font by decision would be a good way to bet him, where you're like, man, I don't think he's finishing a zombie like Vera. So, if -140 is too much for you for Font, wait till you see what he's at for decision. He might get +150 because it's a 5-round fight. You'll like that a whole lot better. And then, so you already mentioned the Vera finish only prop, and I think Victor Jesus mentioned, and think about this one. What about that over 2.5? Do you see either one of these guys getting a finish inside of 12 and a half minutes in this particular fight, with Vera kind of needing a submission to do it almost, and Font needing to knock out a guy, and Brandon Vera, who's never even been knocked down? So maybe that over 2.5, if we can get it at better than like -200, that would be a good look as well. There are some props for this main event that are sticking out because of the intricacies of this stylistic matchup, Brady.
Yeah, there's a lot sticking out. I wish we could talk about it, but no, instead of releasing the main event odds, they're releasing the Gina Mazzani, Shanna Young odds as we speak.
My word. What the hell is that anyway? I mean, like, look, that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. No. I have to sit here and comb through Fat Collier props before I can bet on the Font Vera main event for 5 rounds. This is not good, man.
Yeah, it's terrible. It is terrible. See what else we got in here. Eric saying, I like Brandon's bet Vera by decision or sub. Victor saying alternative. You talked about that, the over 2.5. I think that'd be solid for sure.
I like that.
Trying it to be open-minded, but damn, I want to bet Vera at plus money. Yeah, it's tempting. I think it's very tempting at plus money.
Yeah, and and I was taking such a long look at it at plus 120, and now you say there's some place where it's plus 124?
Yeah, Bet Online plus 124.
Wow. Man,
it's intriguing.
But I got to see the props before I bet the money line.
I know.
I think we can get better value based on these guys' win conditions and fight histories.
Yeah, but instead we'll have to look at those the Shanna Young, Gina Mazzani props instead.
Yeah, what's Shanna Young by 2nd round submission?
They don't have that, but they do have.
Kidding. I'm
kidding.
Okay. Nobody
Young
cares.
by submission plus 1100. But Lou saying Vera by split decision plus the Yambags probably. Oh, you're doing a parlay.
That would be a same fight. Yeah, man. Same fight parlay, Yambags, and a split decision.
There you go.
What was I was seeing some I was researching fights, dude. I think we might be seeing some sack shots in Jotko against Mearshart, and potentially fence grabs too. I've seen both of those guys be a little bit dirty and just hunt for nuts. So that's going to be something I'm going to be looking at, actually.
Oh, and there's going to be a fence grab in the Figueiredo Lacerda fight as well. Figgy's so dirty.
Yeah, he is, man. Guess who trains with the Figueiredos?
Who is it?
Think Cheater.
Carlos Felipe.
Well, I don't know if he trains with them, but how about Priscilla Ketcha Cheating?
Oh, yeah, she
After moving from Piranha Valetudo over to Team Figueiredo, and now she's gouging eyes like she's Dean Barry. Dude, that might be a great call, the Figgy fence grab, because Lacerda is going to be trying to take him down, trying to take his head off. It's going to be a wild fight for at least the first 5 minutes.
I cannot wait for that. Jan saying, I'm on Vera. Moneyline is better than I expected at plus 110. Victor saying he's liking that finish only. Yeah, I cannot wait for that to drop. I'm hoping it's something reasonable. If it is, I will be on that, but you never know. DK live bets have been impossible for me. Sucks. And I don't do too much live betting unless something really sticks out.
And I only try to do it between rounds because there's a goddamn lag, and other people have access to information that you don't. And when people have access to that information and you don't, you're at such a big disadvantage that you probably shouldn't even be in that pool because it's full of piranhas.
Yep. Lou saying Collier by diabetes plus 900. That's terrible, Lou. Come on. But seriously, I think Collier by decision would be interesting. But so Lou's
Dude,
on that.
Tim Troiano hit a 50-1 Puelli's by knee bar prop. Can we get a Collier by diabetes prop? Or actually, it would probably be Arlovsky by diabetes because he would win due to Collier's diabetes brought on by obesity.
Could happen. Anything can happen, but you'll probably get some good odds on that. See if I missed anything here. I think we got the under is very in the. Oh, we talking about the Lacerda fight. Yeah, I think it's out on Bet Online and Bovada. Still waiting for DraftKings to put out the rest of the props.
I was going to jump on that one at plus 140-ish and missed it by 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, it went from plus 140 to minus 110. So, yeah, they're on it. They're on it. People are betting that.
Yeah, and then it went to like back to plus 110, and now it went to minus 105, and now it's back to plus 110. So it's going up and down.
Yeah, you can arb out when you get plus 140 and then it shifts to, minus 110 for the under. Now you got the over is plus money. So you're plus on the under, you're plus on the over. It's free money. So, you got people, it snaps back like a rubber band sometimes because the people who got their money in good can get it out even better.
Oh yeah, it's smart. It's very smart. But yeah, sadly we don't props out. Was kind of milking a little bit to see if they drop them, but we'll go over our favorite bet. So I don't know the line, but Weezy, my favorite bet is going to be that Marlon Vera finish only prop. He is plus money right now, so I'm hoping it's like not something crazy. Like if it's like minus 200 Vera, I'm not going to bet it. But if it's like anywhere between like minus 150 Vera, I'd like that. Plus 100 would be ideal, but probably not going to happen. So I like the finish only. I like that alternative over call over 2.5. I would not go probably any farther than that. I do think it's late finishes on the table for either fighter, but yeah, alternative over 2.5, finish only. Maybe poke at Marlon Vera inside the distance. Those are kind of what things I'm looking at. And then Marlon Vera at plus 124 also has me a little bit intrigued. What's your favorite bet on this fight? Although we don't have lines.
Yeah, so I will be looking for that Vera finish only prop. And if I get that at plus money, you guys, I might go 3-4 units deep on it, because those are the kind of bets I feel like I'm free rolling, and it happens sometimes. Sometimes, I had the finish only prop for William Knight against Devin Clark. Devin Clark had 6 UFC wins. None of them were inside the distance. And Knight had been historically durable, but it's a fight. You never really know what's going to happen, but man, when you get a guy as durable as Marlon Vera and then you get plus money for the finish only prop, and this guy has finished 10 of his 12 UFC wins, and that's in 3-round fights, I think it's a great bet. It's a bet you have to make. I also think the over 2.5 at anything better than minus 200 would be a great bet here. And if you're on that font side, how about font by decision or font 4-5 decision? Oh, yeah. Should be able to get it at plus money, you guys. And I'd rather get Font at plus money than pay minus 140. We just have to take him by his best win condition. And since they don't allow you to bring foreign objects or a shovel into the cage, I don't see him finishing Marlon Vera in the first 3 rounds.
Or a fake cast, right?
Yeah, fake cast like Cowboy Bob Orton back in the day. And it would be great because, he inevitably the ref would get knocked out, right? And then Cowboy Bob Orton pulls the foreign object out of the cast. And then he starts grinding it into the forehead of his opponent. Now the ref wakes back up. The forehead is bleeding of his opponent, and he's pinning them and winning the bout. And the announcers are always saying, this is like the 8th time this has happened. How is the commission not, inspecting the cast? And why are they letting him wear the cast in the first place? One of the great wrestling gimmicks of all time from when I was a kid. But in all seriousness, I mean, if Font finished Marlon Vera in the first 3 rounds, it would be unbelievable. It would be such a fantastic performance by Rob Font. So if you're on that Font side, Font by decision at plus money, or even if you want to, because we've never seen Marlon Vera in a 4th or 5th round, you could do the Font 4-5 decision and get it at just about evens. I think that's a great way to play the fight.
Yep, sounds good to me, Weezy. So we went through everything. We went through the tail of the tape, the experience, the finish stats, the striking, the grappling, the strength of schedule, last 5, and we also talked about the betting a little bit. I think we're both going with Vera Yeah, should be a fun main event. Looking forward to it. The card as a whole, maybe not the best name value, but it should be a fun card. And the next week we do have UFC 274, Charles Oliveira going against Justin Gaethje. That card's gonna be awesome. Cannot wait to break down that main event as well. But yeah, Weezy, let everybody know where they can find you, what you have going on throughout the week. You going live anytime tonight?
Yes, I am. I'll be going live at 10 o'clock tonight. I'll do it on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, and I might also broadcast it to my Uncle Weezy channel as well. We're going to do a balls deep breakdown of this Grant Dawson versus Jared Gordon fight. I think it's one of the good fights on the main card this week. A fairly closely lined fight still, so I think it'll be a good one to break down. Tuesday night at 10 o'clock Central Time on my channel, Uncle Weezy, I'll do just the tip. We'll break down all 12 of these fights from a statistical and tape study perspective and finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. On Wednesday, you can find me on Pub Sports Radio doing the DFS show with Brady, Luke, and with Monk. And then on Thursday, you can find me on the MMA Engine channel again doing probability with my man Brady, where we're going to give you a data-driven look at all these over-under lines and see if we can find some value in them. Maybe find a parlay or two that we like for the week and see if we can make some more money that way. So, thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out on your Monday night with us. God bless each and every one of you guys. And we got to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 53.
Let's do it. Cannot wait for it. Cannot wait for this card. It should be fun. But yeah, you guys follow me, Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers. Just put out my full card breakdown prediction video. Pub Sports, Wednesday, back here on the MMA Engine. Thursday with Weezy for probability. My channel, DFS by the numbers, Friday, live streams Friday and Saturday with best bet 1 hour prior to the prelims. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe. Let's keep growing the MMA Engine channel. New content coming each and every week. So lots to look forward to there. Best of luck, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And good luck for UFC Vegas 53.